Hey, teachers! Welcome back to the Teacher's Lounge podcast, your weekly dose of empathy, practical tools, and a whole lot of truth from the front lines of education. I'm Rachel, your host and fellow educator in the trenches. Today's topic? One that makes many teachers groan and brace for impact. Dealing with difficult parents, staying calm, clear, and compassionate. Because let's be real, no matter how well you plan your lessons, how organized your classroom is, or how many phone calls you do make home, there will always be a parent who's upset, misinformed, or just plain hard to talk to. But what if I told you that you can navigate these conversations with less stress and more strength than you think? Let's break it down. Why some parent interactions feel so hard. First off, let's acknowledge something very real. When parents come in hot, emotionally charged, accusatory, or even hostile, it's rarely just about you. It's about fear, stress, guilt, their child struggling, their own school trauma, their identity as a parent feeling challenged. Let's zoom in on something that might just change the way you experience parent communication. According to psychologist Dr. Ross Greene, the author of The Explosive Child and founder of the Collaborative and Proactive Solutions model, kids do well if they can. In other words, when a child isn't meeting expectations, it's not because they won't. It's because they can't. Yet. They may lack the emotional, cognitive, or social skills to navigate the moment the way we expect. Now, here's the twist. The same applies to parents. Parents do well if they can too. That angry email? That defensive tone during a meeting? That uncomfortable hallway confrontation? It's not necessarily coming from hostility. It might be coming from fear, insecurity, or even their own unresolved school trauma. Many parents carry memories of feeling unheard or dismissed by authority figures. And now, in parent-teacher interactions, they're subconsciously reliving those dynamics. So when a parent comes at you with heat, try to see the human under the armor. They might not be trying to make your job harder. They might be doing the best they can, with the emotional tools they have available at the moment. And here's why this shift in perspective matters. Not just for them, but for you. A 2020 study published in School Psychology Review found that teachers who approached parent interactions with empathy and curiosity, instead of avoidance, anxiety, or escalation, experienced significantly lower rates of burnout, emotional exhaustion, and job-related stress. Why? Because empathy is regulating. Because curiosity interrupts reactivity. Because connection reduces conflict. When you expect defensiveness, you prepare to defend. But when you approach with the mindset of, what's going on beneath this behavior? You bring emotional intelligence into the room. And that shifts everything. It's not about excusing bad behavior or tolerating disrespect. It's about protecting your peace by refusing to match someone else's dysregulation. So the next time you feel that email spike your heart rate, or that parent's tone raise your shoulders, pause and ask, what might this parent be carrying that I can't see? What unmet need is underneath this reaction? Can I stay grounded even if they're not? Because let's be honest, taking it personally is exhausting, but taking it with perspective, that's where your power lives. So what does help when you're facing a difficult parent meeting, phone call, or email? Here are 4 evidence-based strategies that can change the game. 1. Regulate yourself first. You can't de-escalate anyone if you're already activated yourself. According to Dr. Daniel Siegel, co-author of The Whole Brain Child, when we're in fight or flight, we literally lose access to the parts of our brain that help with empathy and communication. Take 3 deep breaths before responding. Write a draft email, then come back to it. Regulate before you react. Pro tip: mirror neurons are real. When you stay calm, you help co-regulate the other person too. 2. Acknowledge emotion before information. Let's talk about one of the most powerful and often underused tools in any teacher's communication toolkit: empathy before explanation. When a parent is upset, whether they're frustrated about a grade, confused about an assignment, or angry over a classroom incident, the natural impulse is to fix the problem quickly, or jump straight into defense mode. That's not what happened. We follow the policy. Your child didn't turn it in. But here's the thing. When someone is emotionally escalated, they can't absorb logic until they feel heard. Their brain is in a reactive state. And in that state, explanation feels like dismissal. That's where empathy comes in. Instead of going straight into solution mode, pause and say something like, I can hear that you're really concerned. I want to understand what's going on from your perspective. It sounds simple, but it's profound. Why? Because it tells the parent, you're not here to fight. You're not brushing them off. You're acknowledging their emotion, not just the content of what they're saying. This technique is deeply supported by the work of Marshall Rosenberg, founder of Nonviolent Communication, NVC. His decades of research show that empathy, when expressed genuinely before explanation or defense, dramatically lowers defensiveness, rebuilds connection, and fosters mutual understanding. In NVC, the sequence goes, observe without judgment. Name the emotion you're hearing. Identify the need underneath the emotion. Make a collaborative request. For example, if a parent is upset that their child was left out of a group, don't start with policy. Start with empathy. That sounds really hurtful. I can imagine how hard it must feel seeing your child go through that. This doesn't mean you're agreeing with every accusation. It means you're creating emotional safety, which is the only real pathway to productive problem solving. Here's the neuroscience behind it. Studies in the Journal of Conflict Resolution and Harvard Business Review show that when people feel emotionally validated, their stress responses, like heart rate, cortisol, and adrenaline, decrease, and their capacity for reasoning and compromise increases. Translation: empathy de-escalates the brain. And when the conversation is grounded in mutual regulation, you're both far more likely to arrive at a meaningful solution without the emotional hangover afterward. So next time you're met with a heated voice or an angry email, try not to jump straight into fix-it mode. Instead, breathe and say, it's clear that this situation really matters to you. Let's talk through it together. It might just change the whole dynamic. 3. Use the UEI framing. Another underrated and powerful tool in handling tough parent conversations is something I call the UEI framing. It's a simple communication strategy that helps shift the conversation from confrontation to collaboration. And yes, it's backed by research. The formula goes like this. Start with the parent's concern. You. Name your shared goal. We. Then describe your actions. I. Let's look at it in action. You want what's best for your child. We both care deeply about their growth. Here's how I'm supporting that in class. Why does this work so well? Because in moments of conflict, the human brain is wired to scan for threat or alliance. When a parent is already emotional, they may perceive you as an opponent, someone standing between them and their child's success. But when you start by affirming their care and move into common ground, you're subtly shifting from adversary to ally. You're reminding them, we're on the same team. And here's the research to back that up. A study published in the Journal of School Family Engagement found that when educators framed conversations around shared values and goals, rather than blame, compliance, or correction, parents reported higher levels of trust, long-term engagement, and willingness to collaborate. In other words, when parents feel like they're in a partnership instead of a power struggle, they become more receptive, not just in that conversation, but in future ones too. Here's another example. You want your child to feel confident and capable. We both want school to be a safe place for them. I've been giving them leadership roles during group work, and I'm already seeing a boost in participation. It's calm, respectful, human. And that tone often leads to more productive conversations, fewer miscommunications, and stronger relationships overall. Important to remember, this strategy doesn't mean you avoid boundaries or sugarcoat the truth. It means you deliver honesty with warmth. It means you remind the parent, and yourself, that you're working toward the same finish line, even if you're starting on different pages. 4. Document, document, document. Always keep notes of communications, even if they're positive. This isn't just about covering yourself. It's about creating a paper trail of care and professionalism. If a conversation starts to go off track, you can say, "Let me summarize what we've discussed in an email, just to make sure we're on the same page." It creates clarity and accountability for everyone involved. Let me tell you about a parent I once had. We'll call her Ms. Thompson. She emailed me every single day, multiple times, often late at night. She questioned my assignments, my grading, even how I phrase things on the whiteboard. At first, I felt attacked. I went into defense mode. But then I paused, took a breath, and I did two things. I scheduled a phone call instead of sending another email chain. I asked, "What's been on your mind most when you see your child coming home from school?" That changed everything. Turns out her child wasn't telling her much, and she was panicking in the silence. Once we started regular check-ins and I acknowledged her anxiety instead of avoiding it, the tension faded. And here's the beautiful part. By the end of the year, she was one of my biggest allies. Sometimes the difficult parent becomes your strongest partner, once they feel heard. Take a deep breath, teacher friend. Let's reflect. When you think of your last difficult parent conversation, how did it go? Did you feel calm, defensive, rushed, compassionate? What might have changed if you led with empathy or set a clear boundary? Are there communication habits you want to adjust, like responding slower or offering phone calls over emails? Here's a big one. What belief do you hold about difficult parents? And is it helping you or hurting you? Author Elena Aguilar writes in Onward, Cultivating Emotional Resilience in Educators. When we see people through the lens of curiosity instead of judgment, we soften. We become better listeners. And sometimes that's all they ever needed. That includes parents, especially the ones who come in loud, upset, and hard to read. Because under that frustration, there's fear, love, a desire to protect their child. You don't have to agree with them. But when you lead with professionalism, empathy, and boundaries, you win every time. You show your students what respect looks like. You build bridges, and you keep your sanity intact. So next time a parent email makes your stomach drop, remember, regulate yourself first. Listen with curiosity, not just strategy. Build collaboration, not competition. And above all, protect your peace. You are not alone. Difficult conversations are part of this work. But so is the power to shift them with grace and intention. If today's episode gave you tools, relief, or just a deep breath, would you do me a favor? Like, subscribe and share this episode with a teacher friend who needs it. Because we're better together, and every teacher deserves support. Until next time, keep showing up with strength and softness. You've got this.